Welcome everybody to the Diploma of Mental Health information session. Can everyone see my screen okay? Just type a yes in the field box so I can see, or give me a wave. For those of you that are watching live, thank you so much for attending. We want participation throughout the session. I'm going to make this as engaging as possible, so that way I can give you guys the best information possible around this course, the industry, how it works. My name is Steve, and we have Marcus Miller here as well, our trainer in the mental health space, who's going to give you the ins and outs of the industry, how the course works, and what happens after that. What sort of job prospects are there? Okay. For those of you that are watching the recording, because we will have a few of you, even if you have to duck out now from this live, if you're watching the recording, play along as well. You can skip to relevant bits. This is going to be a really good information session to give you guys all the information that you need to see if this is the right thing for you. And you'll probably take away a bit out of this as well, which would be great. So what to expect from this session? Well, first we'll go through a little bit about TrainSmart Australia, what we're all about, what we stand for, and why us. Then we'll go through the mental health industry, some key statistics about the industry itself, how it's evolving, how it's growing, and how it's changing. We'll also go through what exactly is a mental health support worker. What does the daily life look like? Is that role the type of role that you really should be doing? We'll go through some focus areas in mental health where support is actually needed, and we'll discuss how closing the gap between consumers and practitioners is important, and what skills every mental health worker needs to have. And it's interesting, just for those of you that are here live now, we can see in the chat box, a lot of you have experience in the industry, so we'll probably ask you some questions towards the end as well. And that's bringing me to the last point here. Ask us questions throughout. We've already had quite a few questions come through. We will have that opportunity, especially towards the end, to do a bit of a Q&A with myself and obviously Marcus, the trainer here. And at the end of this session, there will be an opportunity that if you want to find out more about the course or speak on a one-to-one level, there's an opportunity to book in a time for later this week, next week, to have a chat with one of our career advisors who can actually run through all of your career advice, questions, the course, how it all works, and potentially look at even enrolling you into a course. So there is that option for that, and I'll explain that towards the end of this call today. So a bit of an overview of TrainSmart Australia. Now, we've been around since 2005. So we're a very well-established registered training organisation. We have all of our courses are nationally recognised and approved and accredited. They are recognised all across Australia, and they are well-renowned. We really specialise in the health and community services sector. That's really where 80% of our students are, and we're well-renowned for that. So this is everything from mental health, community services, counselling, youth work, alcohol and other drugs. Those are our top courses, and our trainers are the best in the industry. They all have experience in training and actually out there doing the work, just like Marcus today. So it's going to be great to hear from his experience and what he's noticed in the industry and what great students look like. So potentially you could be one too. We have had over 20,000 graduates as well. So a heap of people that have come through TrainSmart Australia, and people have some great things to say about us, which is great as well. So why do students choose TrainSmart Australia? A lot of students have lived experience in the mental health space, and they choose to be with TrainSmart Australia because we utilize those skills as well for them during their learning and their experience with us. A lot of people are working in the mental health industry, our students and our trainers as well. So it's definitely very industry specific. You're going to get some real outcomes out of this. It's not just about theory and jargon. It's about actually getting proper skills out of this that can help you in your career. A lot of our students are seeking a career change as well. So they may be in a different industry, like a lot of you in the chat box has put through here, that you may be in a different industry. I heard personal trainers, all sorts, people in agriculture, which is great to see because it is a growing industry. So we have a lot of students that are looking for that career change, and they come to us as that first start, which is great. We do offer personalized online training and one-on-one support, which is something that we tend to notice in the industry that's lacking. You're generally kind of left to your own devices to watch some videos. Not here at TrainSmart. We're very focused on the individual student's journey. It means a lot to us. And also that work placement support, which we've had some questions about already. And as I've kind of harped on about Marcus here, I'm really putting him up on a bit of a pedestal, but we do have some very experienced, qualified trainers that are great and just great to talk with as well. And we are a vet student loan provider. So I won't go too much into funding and things, but we do have some exciting funding opportunities here at TrainSmart. So we have vet student loans. Won't go through all of that, but it does just make training with TrainSmart extremely affordable for everybody, which is great. We have exceptional student support. I won't harp on too much about all of this because I want to get into the meat and bones of today's session with Marcus, and I kind of went through most of this stuff already. A little bit about some of our students. So we have a lot of student testimonials. You can see on our Google reviews and all across our socials, we've had some phenomenal things that students have said to us. And a lot of it that we really pride ourselves on is getting an outcome, getting that work in the industry. So you can see here a couple of our graduates. We have so many to choose from here. And these are just a couple of students who have recently graduated and are now working in the industry. And that's really what we look for, is helping people achieve their goals with studying their Diploma of Mental Health. For a lot of people, it's about upskilling in the industry and getting their next job, or it may be getting into the industry and actually getting that employment. And that's really something that we take seriously here at TrainSmart, is helping you get yourself established, just like these two students here who have had quite a good experience. I'll let you guys read through those. So I'll introduce Marcus. I'll hand over to Marcus now.
Oh, that's quick.
Yeah, I know. I want to get into it.
Smashing through it. Okay.
So what I'll get you to do is share your screen. Are you ready to share yours?
Let me just get that one up because I don't. Hang on. I did have it. Sorry, you've got me much quicker than I expected to have. That's okay. Look, I can introduce myself while I try and find my slide properly, because I've only got the PDFs here for some reason. Okay. Hi, my name is Marcus, as you're probably aware now. I recently, in the last few years, graduated with a Bachelor of Psychology and a minor in counselling. So that came about after I'd run a successful business for 15 years. I started that in my mid-20s. It grew and grew and grew to the point where it got out of control. And one day I found myself in control or out of control of something that I didn't really want to do anymore. I experienced my own mental health journey as part of that, and through that ended up deciding on a complete shift in career, because all of my previous skills were around business and customer service and client relations and that kind of thing. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with all of these skills if not help people? And so I decided to completely change out of a retail and business oriented model to something completely different. And I chose psychology and mental health. I've always had an interest in the field. I'm fascinated by psychological concepts and people's behavior and why they do things. And what I found through that journey is I started to recognize that I had an affinity for talking to people. So I really like working in this sector for two reasons. One is offering my knowledge, my understanding, my experience, and sharing that with other people kind of gives me that nice sense of belonging, and I can use it to support other people in their journeys. So as someone with my own experience with mental health and my own mental health journey, that gives me some credence when I come to spaces to talk about it. So in my classes, I will discuss concepts like anxiety and depression from an informed perspective. I have experienced those things myself. I have experienced my journey. And so quite often what happens is I apply my personal experience to some of the materials to make them more relatable. And so what I hope for most of you, if you do sign up, is you'll find that yourself. You'll find that if you have your own experience with a mental health journey, you can really be a benefit in this particular space to your clients and so on. I really like working in this field because you get to walk the path with some fascinating people and some really interesting people who are quite often marginalized or perhaps overlooked. I've met some really wonderful people working in this sector. I originally started off with students and peer support, and then moved into disadvantaged youth. And from there, I've sort of now focusing on my training and training other people to work in this sector. What I find with TrainSmart is we have a really good, there's a facility for me to be able to actually contact the students and be able to talk to you and spend a bit of time with you. One of the things that I've found in some educational settings is, as Stephen mentioned earlier, it's like, here, watch this video, we'll assess you, see you later. When we don't really do that, I spend quite a bit of time with my students, helping them achieve things and helping them go through the materials and relating those materials. So rather than just saying, here are the facts, give us your test. Thank you very much. Here's your qualification. See you later. I'll explain to you why these skills are important, where you might use them, how you might contextualize them. And I really like being able to do that because I think it value adds a lot to my training. I haven't been able to bring that up. If you could just go to the next slide, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can control that. That's no
Thanks.
problem. You're just going to have to let me know every time you want a
that's
slide
fine.
change.
No, that's fine. It's there's not many to go. So what we've got here are some stats around mental health in Australia, which are really quite, I guess, quite revealing about the situation. A lot of people ask me, like, what's it like to get a job in this sector? It's like you'll have no trouble finding a job in mental health. Trust me, it's a growth industry. So if you have a look at some of these stats, they're quite interesting. One of the interesting one that I always like to point out is that men tend to be slightly more likely to experience mental illness, but you'll also find that this is underreported. Men tend to be less likely to reach out. The other, we had I'll get onto that one later. There's another slide that talks about the number of people, the demographic working in this sector, and that's one that's really open to men as well. We kind of encourage more men to work in the area, but you'll find that the stats here are quite daunting. 46% of Australians aged 15 to 85 have experienced a mental disorder during their lifetime. And this can be anything from anxiety, depression, all the way up to full-blown diagnosed conditions such as schizophrenia or bipolar and so on. There is a growth in the young people experiencing mental health issues. We're now at the rate of 1 in 7 young people aged 4 to 17. And unfortunately, 54% of people with mental health issues don't actually access any treatment. One of our jobs in this role, once you graduate, is to be able to actually connect people who need mental health support with the right services. And that's a really fundamental, really, really important part of this. In terms of the jobs, as you can see, the numbers there are pretty much speak for themselves. There is a lot of money in this sector. There are a lot of jobs in this sector, and the median introductory salary isn't too bad. Keeping in mind that a lot of the time with these qualifications, for those of you who don't have a mental health qualification of any kind, you'll generally start with this as an introduction and you'll work your way up through. Whereas those of you who have experience already, this will add to your toolkit, it'll add to your resume, and enable you to perhaps take on higher end jobs. Or to diversify, to move into slightly parallel sectors around there. And you can see there's 3,994 current job opportunities existing now on Seek for mental health support worker, which is one of the introductory roles that you can get from this qualification. The salary from that range is a fair bit, but also so do the hours. So some people find that this is a really flexible area to get into. It's really good to be able to just sort of, you can take a casual role, you can work 1 day a month, you can work 7 days a week, you can work I wouldn't suggest that, but yeah, you're gonna have a full-time job from this. All right, can we go to the next slide? Great. What do mental health support workers do? Well, look, here's one of those stats that I pointed out before, what I was mentioning before. The number of mental health people working in mental health is significantly overrepresented by females. This has actually changed over the last few decades, where it's flipped. It used to be more men, and now it's become more women in the sector. And we're actually starting to find a little bit of a gap for men in this sector. So for us dudes out there, great opportunity. For the women, you will. It doesn't matter. You'll find a job. There's no real difference there in terms of getting placement. You'll find a job either way. So some of the common tasks that we actually do as a mental health support worker, as you can see here, assisting clients and monitoring client process and so on. One of the things we're actually doing is addressing this gap. So if we can pull up the next slide, actually, I think that would give me, this one here. So this is actually one of my areas that I really get passionate about. If any of you have sought out mental health support before, you would know what the process is like. And you can probably agree with me that it can be difficult. It can be confronting. It can be challenging. I always like to give the example of my own, which is first I have to acknowledge that I have a mental health issue. Then I have to make an appointment with my GP. Then I have to make it to the GP. I have to drive my way down there, make it on the particular day, go sit down there, tell him all about my troubles. He gives me a referral to someone. I go to someone else, and then I do the same thing again. I have to make that appointment, go out to them, and so on and so forth. This is exhausting. This is exhausting for people with mental health. And one of the realities of mental health sector is sometimes it takes a little bit of shopping around to find the right place. Your role in this can actually make that a lot easier for people to seek support and assistance. You knowing the right support networks, you knowing the right kind of people, the right methods, the right places, the right services will save your clients a lot of time and heartache. And it's really, really valuable. I discovered this in my studies, that there was this huge gap. It was like, great, okay, so we've got a client who's realized they have a mental health issue, and now they have to go through this, jump through hurdles and jump through hoops to be able to actually get some support for it. We can fill that gap. We can actually take that place in that gap. So if you go to the next slide, we'll show you where we slot into that. Yeah. So in terms of our role, we will offer support and care plans and rehabilitation through a strength-based approach where we talk to our clients, we support them, we be there, we basically add a point of contact that is quite often missing from people's lives. And we allow them or facilitate them to find better support services and perhaps connect them with some specific services. So we might deal with AUD clients, alcohol and other drugs clients. We may deal with marginalized LGBTQI community members. We may be dealing with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. These are traditionally vulnerable demographics who may not be reaching out for support. So they're the kind of people that we might be encountering in everyday duties that we discuss and talk to and support and make feel much more comfortable about reaching out for that for a little bit of support. So some of the common things that you would do in a day-to-day is the next slide relating to that. No, so I'll leave it on this one. That's fine. Some of your day-to-day tasks would be sitting down and listening to a client. I always just say that as the first thing, just listening to your client. Okay, we will teach you things like active and reflective listening skills, which is some of the techniques that we use to discuss, potentially difficult topics with clients. We'll teach you some basic motivational interviewing techniques and other techniques and methods to be able to really build a meaningful relationship with our clients that makes them actually feel like they're being supported and makes them feel more inclined to pursue some form of recovery. And we talk about recovery-oriented practice. Which is a path. It's not a solution. We're not looking at fixing our clients. We're looking at supporting them and assisting them and helping them along. We're not here to diagnose. We're not here to treat. We're not here to do any of those kind of things. We're really here to perhaps provide a corrective experience to some people. So a great example for that is have any of you had the pleasure of dealing with Centrelink to get something like study payments or anything like that? Okay. How many of you have reached the point where, do you know that point? Anyone know that point? If there's a specific point that you get with dealing with Centrelink and you just think, okay, I'm going to have a cup of tea now, a little bit of a lie down. Imagine if that was your life. Imagine if every day you're trying to contact Centrelink, you're trying to deal with someone and you just reach those barriers. Eventually, your learned helplessness kicks in and you give up and you stop reaching out for help and you just don't bother. We are here to potentially provide a corrective experience for that. So you will learn some skills that relate to supporting a client in a way where they may have come in from they have a previous idea of what they think of how they're going to be treated. The Centrelink way as an example, and you provide an experience where you say to them, actually, look, I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. I'm here to listen to you. And I have your best interests at heart here. I want to be able to help you find the goals in your life that you want to be aiming towards, the paths that you want to be walking. So aside from duties such as filling out referrals, completing wellness plans, assessing our clients' general overall well-being, I think the major part of the job to me as a mental health support worker is really listening to our clients. Okay. And just when I mean listening, I don't mean, I mean really understanding their story and getting to know where they're coming from so that when we go to offer them some form of guidance or support direction or options, we do from an informed place. It's not just our assumptions. We're not just coming in and going, oh, well, you're clearly a drug addict, therefore we should send you to rehabilitation. We can listen to their story, find out what might best suit them, suggest a proper support avenue for them, and really help them work towards that recovery journey. And correct that potential experience they've had in the past with people who haven't listened to them, because ultimately that's generally one of the major problems. Okay, so where else are we up to here? Okay, so if we can go to the key, what is the Diploma of Mental Health one? Yeah, this one here. All right, so we will be covering the mental health frameworks and services. So this is things like some of the common terminology that we will use in mental health, some of the common techniques, some of the common practices. We don't go into a lot of detail about. Okay, I'll get onto that slide in a moment. There's a slide that we've got that's about what we don't do. Now, recovery-oriented practice is pretty much encouraging clients to become masters of their own domain and their own destiny. This is a humanistic approach, which is, as opposed to the medical model, treats the client as their own experts. And what we do is we listen to them and guide them and allow them to then facilitate, we help them facilitate their own recovery. So rather than us making the phone calls for them and doing the chores for them, we find ways for them to be able to face those particular challenges or potential challenges in their lives. It's very common for us to deal with people with have mental health issues. Sometimes we won't be, but most of the time it's AOD or coexisting needs. When I say AOD, I mean alcohol and other drugs. You'll learn a whole lot of acronyms in this course as well, which is one of the wonderful things. We abbreviate things down a lot. So if you don't know enough acronyms already, I've got plenty for you. I've got a whole lot of new ones for you. And the Diploma of Mental Health may lead you to become employed in a team lead or coordinator position. Quite often what will happen if you haven't worked in this sector before is you'll start off in fairly basic roles, but with that diploma, you'll work up quite quickly to be able to facilitate and coordinate other people in the sector. So you might be the manager of a group of people who have Cert 4s, for example. Overall, the course is conducted over 12 months. There are 20 units in total. So you do 20 units divided by 12, it's the pace. And towards the end of that, you'll be required to do around, 160 hours of work placement. We normally coordinate with you to arrange work placement. This isn't something that you're left to do by yourself. In fact, we don't want students to organize their work placement by themselves because we have requirements and things like in terms of your observation checklist and so on that you're being judged against. We've had students in the past who've gone and organized work placement without the documentation, and they've come to us and said, oh, look, we've done our work placement. We're like, cool, can you give us the documentation? No? Okay, that's a problem. So we like to work with you on that so that we can actually get you graduating from the course rather than just having you turn up and then feel left alone. All right, next slide, please. So most people who come into this area are attracted to it for specific reasons, and it's not the prestige or the glamour. It's frequently because we have experience, either by friends or our own personal experience in the field. And I at uni, I remember quite a few of my cohort were actually people who worked in kind of semi-related, but not industries: hairdressers, makeup artists, massage therapists. These are people who quite often spend a lot of time listening to and speaking to their clients. So in this field, having really good active listening skills is actually very important. And active listening is something that we'll teach you a little bit more about. For those who are working in mental health already, you'd understand how beneficial and how powerful good active listening skills can be. Self-reflection is also very important. We'll teach you some self-reflection skills. And this includes the ability to basically carry on our own self-improvement and to make sure that we are performing to the best for not only ourselves, but for our clients. It's very important to look after ourselves, and we teach you a little bit of that. Patience. I don't know if you can teach that, but it'll help you if you are patient, okay? And that will also support your active listening skills and aptitude, ability to do so. Knowledge or experience of mental health struggles. So this is why I say either people you know or your own personal experience would be handy. Empathy, I quite often spend a bit of time discussing with my students the difference between empathy and sympathy and how these can be applied and how sometimes one is, suitable and the other's not. Empathy is always the better idea, in my opinion. But you need to have that. You need to have a sense of empathy. You can't go into a mental health situation and impose all of your own thoughts and values onto the person that you're treating. You need to take theirs. You need to kind of try and see things from their point of view and perspective. You need to be able to adapt your mindset. So that's that empathy and perspective taking. We teach several diversity units, which allow you to or encourage you to have a non-judgmental attitude, because in this space you will be dealing with an extremely diverse range of people, and the majority of them will be very vulnerable. So for anyone to come into this space who doesn't have that facility, the capability to accept other people's differences and perhaps some issues, it can be a bit of a challenge if you're not used to that. And the broad worldview, we really like well-traveled students or international students or people who've taken an interest in that, because your perspective, a broad perspective, allows you to really empathize with people and really to get into there and think about things from their perspective. An interest in study that helps healing others. Look, that goes without saying. I think you know what that means. We want to learn how to help other people. And one important thing with this is that ability to study independently and reach out when you need support. I constantly tell my students to contact me if they need help, and it normally takes a little bit of time because they're reluctant to reach out, but I love it. I'd much rather a student reach out to me and spend 20 minutes on the phone with me than stress for a week about an assessment question that they don't know the answer to. So just like I say this on most of my sessions to my students: if you have any troubles, please call me. I don't want you contacting me 2 weeks later saying, Marcus, I've got this assessment that's 2 weeks overdue. Well, not that we have due dates. That I feel like I'm 2 weeks behind on. I don't know how to ask you question 5. I've stressed about it. I've lost sleep. And it's like, oh, great, let's talk about it. And we work through it together. So I really enjoy that. I actually really enjoy helping students in that way. And that's my background as well. At university, I spend a lot of time in student support, and I really enjoy helping other people achieve and do well. Okay, so some of the learning outcomes here. We have Pillar 1, which is work in a legal and ethical manner with people in the diverse community. This is really a core one. I quite often refer to this as our social justice warrior suit of armor. Your legal and ethical armor protects you and your clients from potential repercussions. And we go into a lot of detail about that. I spend a lot of time talking to students about that and going through the nitty-gritty of that. Understanding and assessing holistic needs of the client. So this is assessing the client as a whole and thinking about all parts of their life. We talk about that. Exploring different strategies and services. So we look at different options to support our clients. We might talk social options. We might talk physical. We might talk spiritual. We might talk emotional well-being, and we look at those particular avenues that we can support our clients with. And we also look at potential complex and coexisting needs. So domestic violence, AOD, addictions, homelessness, and combinations of the above. So we have a pretty good coverage of the common mental health issues and field that we'll be that you'll be working in. So the practical skills that we'll teach you. Self-reflection is really, really important in this field, really important. Any course that doesn't teach you, any mental health unit that doesn't teach you a little bit of self-reflection, I always feel is a little bit suspect, because I'm not the expert, my client is. My client knows more about themselves than I will ever know about them, no matter how long I talk to them for. Active listening, very important. This is about listening to understand, not listening to respond. So listening to actually find out more about your clients, not listening just so you can say something to them. And this is something that I quite often talk about with assessments. When students are doing practical assessments, I have to remind them not to go off a script, because if you're reading off a script every time you deal with a client, the second you go off script, you're in trouble. Okay, so active listening allows you to conduct, without a script, conduct a really good mental health engagement. We also talk about evidence-based research. This is one of my favorite fields. As someone who's a psychology graduate at university, I did a lot of research. If any of you have done psychology studies at university, you'd understand there's a lot of research, and we talk a lot about evidence-based practice. This is the fundamental foundation of all of my work. It is always evidence-based. I don't just go off stuff that's made up or what I think might work. It's very important to me. Recovery-oriented practices rather than a medical model. We talk about the recovery journey rather than a destination. We talk about the process rather than a solution. And case management. So we talk about cases, and we do a lot of case studies. Every unit that I deliver has case studies in it. So you'll become very familiar with working with cases and individual clients and talking about the nitty-gritty of those. They're my favorite. I love case studies. They're actually one of my favorite exercises. And the students hate me for that because I get excited and they don't. Some do. Okay, so this one I brought up a couple of times, what the course is and isn't. I like to start with what isn't. You can read what it is, but the important thing is some of these is that this is not a counseling qualification. You will learn some basic low-level counseling skills that allow you to obtain valuable information from your client. They're not there for you to go into the history of the client and to discuss their deeper in-depth desires. This isn't something that we're not going to be conducting sessions with our clients regularly where we explore their personal background or anything like that. That's a counseling qualification. It's quite a different field. And that's where you would quite often see the same client regularly over and over again and work with them. You might have 3 or 4 clients. that you regularly see and work with. This is quite a different setting for that. This is not a qualification that will allow you to diagnose or treat mental health clients. If you want to do that, you need to do a lot more study, okay? And as someone who's finished a degree in psychology and counseling, I'm not ready. I would need to do postgraduate. If I wanted to diagnose and treat, I would need to do at least a master's degree, if not a PhD. In psychology, and that's a very long and very expensive and quite a challenging journey. And at this stage, I'm not ready to do that. I think I stopped. I thought about it, and I thought, no, I've had enough study for right now. Might do it later. And this is not a self-healing course. This is a funny one because we will all do a little bit of self-analysis. We have that self-reflection, but you're not going to come out of this being able to diagnose yourself or anyone else. And it's not going to be one that really delves into the root causes or the justifications of particular mental health challenges. Again, that's more psychology and university level graduation stuff. So as you can see, what it will give you is that those skills to interact with a diverse range of people, an understanding of the sector and the services. You will be bridging that gap. You'll be connecting vulnerable people with the people that they need to be connected with. This it will equip you for a career as a first line responder, and it may be the first step in that, and may ignite a passion inside you to further study in the field. Great. So here's a quick comparison. On the left, we've got a university degree, which would be, that looks like bachelor's to master's, depending on your course load. That'll be full-time as well. So that's 4 units per semester. You'd get your master's of psychology in around 6 years. And that's intense. That's pretty intense. I did my undergraduate degree in 4 years. I did a three-quarter load, so it took me 4 years to do it. So if you're working, there's no way you'd be able to do a university degree full-time while working full-time. The Diploma of Mental Health, on the other hand, is a quicker delivered course. It's a little intense. We go through quite quickly, but as you can see, within 12 months, you'll actually have a qualification that allows you to get into a field and earn similar money to those who have a university degree. And I can say that with as with someone with a bachelor of psychology, I would be applying at this stage for the same kind of jobs that someone with a diploma of mental health would be applying for. The reason I'm training you here is because I have skills in that as well, and I have a qualification in that, and I have background in other things. So even straight off the bat, as a graduate with a diploma of mental health, you can look at jobs to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 as a starting wage. And then further university pathways if you wish. Great. Okay, so one of the ways that we deliver this, it's slightly different from, well, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the vet sector versus the university sector. At university, you have a score. So you get, all the way from 50% to 100%. And if you get, as long as you get a 50% or above, you pass and you can move on, but they have a grading system. The difference here is we have a competency-based system, which actually requires you to reach 100%. And our 100% is demonstrating an aptitude or a level of competency in particular skills. The other difference here is we allow you to resubmit. So if you don't get if your assessment goes through the first time and 5 of your answers out of 20 are wrong, you resubmit it. We send you feedback. We say, yep, these answers are right. These ones here, we need you to give a little bit more information, or we need you to have a look at here for some answers, or we need you to provide a bit more detail and so on. We send it back to you. You get to resubmit it, and you get usually 2 or 3 attempts at that before we step in and say, would you like some assistance with this? So if you're submitting assessment 10, 15 times and you're still not quite getting it, we might contact you and have a word and say, would you like some help with this? We have dedicated trainer support and feedback. So I've spent the whole day, I've been working since 8 o'clock this morning, helping my students for the day. I had a class, my Diploma of Mental Health class, and I spent most of the day coaching students, which was talking to them about the ins and outs of active and reflective listening with particular clients and difficult clients and legal and ethical guidelines relating. So the whole day, they were just asking me questions about that. I love it. It's great. That's what I want. I want people to come and talk to me about these things. I'm passionate about it. I enjoy it. We expect you to do around 20 to 25 hours of study per week. I don't recommend this course if you are working full time and you don't have a bit of time to dedicate to that. You will find yourself falling behind. If you are a whiz at organizing yourself, then it's a different thing altogether. If you have experience in this sector, if you've done a diploma level qualification or a Cert 4 level qualification before, and you're familiar with some of the process, you might find it a little bit less than 20 to 25 hours per week. Each unit contains, we do video recordings of classes, we have live classes, we have online textbooks, we have journal articles, we have, I actually put together additional materials for every single unit. So I often send those out, and they are regularly just YouTube links covering all of the core topics of a particular topic. And they're just the essence of something to help people get their head around it. And each unit generally includes 3 summative assessments. One is a knowledge-based assessment where we have a group of questions regarding the topic. One is a case study question assessment where we relate some of the topics to specific scenarios and get you to talk about those. And then we have a practical assessment where we get you to demonstrate particular skills. Sometimes the practical assessments are role plays. Sometimes they might be research projects. Sometimes they might be something else, but it's an actual practical activity. And then we have work placement. So that's something we take care of. You don't need to worry about whether you'll find somewhere for work placement. If you try to find it yourself, you'll probably have less luck than if you engage our work placement team, who are very handy. Okay, what have we got next? LearnSmart. So LearnSmart is our learning management system. This has, I mean, if you're familiar with any online facilities such as Blackboard or any of the other LMS types that are out there, it's our own one that we use to navigate your learning progress. It's generally pretty easy to navigate. We have a nice straightforward setup, and you can track your course progress through there quite easily. All of your study materials are located in one place. You can watch your lectures. I send out Zoom links for my students each week, but I also email them out recordings if they can't attend. You can complete your assessments through there. You can view your feedback through there. You can use the forums. You can book practicals. There's a whole lot of things you can do through our LMS, which is all nice and compact in one place. We don't send you out to a bunch of different ones. Right, next slide. Okay, so here's an example of what our summative assessment 1 might look like, and this is a group of knowledge-based questions. So you can see in there it has the question, it has an area for you to answer, and then you'll get feedback once you've submitted it. This is basically to test your knowledge and understanding, and it normally maps back to core topics within a particular unit. It will be a group of set questions. You need to answer all of them, and you need to answer them all satisfactorily. If you don't, you get it back. You'll have some feedback. It'll say not quite satisfactory or not yet satisfactory. I need you to provide more or less more information here or detail there or whatever. Sometimes we'll refer you to particular resources to be able to help you that. And normally you download it just through LearnSmart, fill it out on your computer and upload it through LearnSmart as well. Once you've completed that, we review it, mark it, and send it back to you with feedback, either positive or less positive. We don't do negative feedback. I don't tell people they're doing badly. So I don't say negative feedback. But the red X is a bit negative, but that's, other than that, we're generally pretty kind. Now, the assessment 2 is my favorite. I love case studies because I like reading through them and getting into, I pick them apart. I get to the funny thing with case studies is I'll go way too far in depth in them, and then I'll see the questions, and the questions are all way easier than I was going to in the case studies. But it's a really nice way to apply your knowledge, your theoretical knowledge, into a hypothetical scenario before we prepare you for role plays, and then the role plays lead you out to the real world. So as you see there, it's pretty much the same as the assessment 1. They look very similar. It's just one's case studies and one's questions. And then we have our practical activities. So the practical activities generally vary. Most of the time, there will be some form of interactive thing that you need to do with somebody. It may be a trainer, it may be another student. It may be a reflective process. It may be a role play interactive process. And other times it might just be a little research project. We also have online facilities for conducting practical assessments through Zoom. So if you can't make it to a class practical, for example, you can book one online and be able to do the practical assessment in your own time. And yes, this is it. This is the Purpose Practicals is the online one-on-one. So very, very handy for those of you who may not be able to attend every day, or you may have a busy schedule. We have an option there to be able to queue up and schedule a practical assessment. So, okay, so with this one here, we're giving an example of the structure, the core structure of one of our units, or core units of one of our qualifications. So in there, we see 2 diversity units. Well, a lot of the clients that we work in the mental health are vulnerable, and they're members of diverse communities. So we go in a little bit of the common issues and the common approaches, the common backgrounds of these clients that we might be dealing with. Then we move on to a more general unit, which is work with people with mental health. So this is a nice broad, what are some of the common things that we're going to be dealing with? What are some of the common questions that we might answer? What are some of our common responses? What are some of the common ways we might deal with those? And some of the common challenges. So for example, the practical assessment for that one is one of the role plays where we get you to engage in a role play session with clients that have particular needs. And we get to practice things like your privacy and confidentiality speeches and things like that. PRP 003, one of my favorite units. This is reflecting on and improving your professional practice. This is about thinking about yourself, thinking about how you're performing and getting feedback on that. Another one there we have is the work health and safety. So work health and safety is everyone's favorite thing to do. I probably am one of the people here who thinks that. We all look forward to our work health and safety training again. But we teach you a management. At this level, you would be managing work health and safety in a business environment or a work environment rather than just participating in it. So in lower level qualifications, it's just being part of it. And this one, we're actually teaching you to be a manager. So there's an example of some of the units that we might be teaching you there. And here a little bit more, we're going into more depth now. So these are some of the more specific ones. MHS 011 is actually combined. We have that one. If you see CHC, the first one there, and CHCM, so CSM 005. Oh no, that's case management. That's a different one now. Okay, we've actually clustered a couple of these units. So we teach some of these units together. The other one with MHS 011 isn't there at the moment. But this is about assessing our clients. How are they doing? Pole 3, my favorite unit, is research and evidence-based practice, how to do that. I attempt to teach you in around about 4 weeks what I took 4 years to study. It's a challenge, but I'm pretty good at it. So I cut through all the stats and stuff. I don't talk stats much. I'll show you some bell curves, which are always exciting, and get a bit excited about statistics, but yeah, I leave that out if I can. Wellness plans. So this is a very important part. You'll actually develop and work on wellness plans with a lot of your clients, and we do this throughout this course. So this one becomes quite familiar for the students. Recovery-oriented mental health services. So this is the concept of recovery-oriented practice. We talk about that in detail, and we teach you exactly what that is. And then we further and further. So here we have even more detailed units. So yeah, there's quite a few units here, and occasionally we shuffle these around in terms of delivery order to make sure that there's actually some logic to the order. Recently this year we actually changed the delivery order a little bit, just because we found that there were some things that we could teach you early on that you then carry on through the entire course. So we're also reviewing our courses every now and then just to make sure we're delivering the best to our students. And then we have work placement. So you see in the bottom there's some of the work placement partners that we have, places that we regularly send our students, and that's not all of them. There's a few others as well that we deal with just a few of them that we represent there. Work placement's a really important part as well, because if you ever look for jobs in this sector, a lot of them will ask you to have experience. Work placement gets you experience. You'll have 160 hours of experience in the field, which is brilliant. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And here we have a couple of success stories from our students, previous students, which is always lovely to see. And yeah.
Great. Thank you, Marcus.
You're welcome.
I'll take over from here.
Yep.
And what we'll do is, as I'm discussing these next parts here, if you have any questions, because I know our last Q&A was kind of brief, feel free to type them in the chat now.
Yeah, I'll get onto that.
Yeah, we'll get onto that. But as Marcus was saying, he went through a lot about the course specifics itself. You can see that there's quite a lot of units to actually complete within this diploma. It is quite intense, and it's something that is going to require you to be quite disciplined and reach out, ask for help from your trainer, and participate. We ask for participation. That's key in order to complete these diplomas successfully, just like our other graduates here, like Rachel here and Valma here. And these are some of the nice things that our trainers have said about these students. So really from here, we'll do some Q&A shortly. But the next step for you is, if you want to learn more and you're interested in maybe becoming a mental health support worker, you're interested in joining the industry or upskilling, reach out to us. There is free career advice that we have here at TrainSmart Australia. So what you do is you just, by simply contacting that number down at the bottom of your screen there, save that number, or our website, you can just Google TrainSmart Australia and you can fill out an inquiry or call, and you'll be able to get free one-on-one career advice. This career advisory session will patch straight through to my team here. They understand the industry and they understand the course thoroughly, and they'll be able to go through with you one-on-one to discuss whether or not you're suitable for the course, answer any questions or concerns that you may have. Also, eligibility, recognition prior learning, funding methods. We'll be able to go through it all with you. So if you would like to find out some more information and really see if this is the right pathway for you, don't hesitate to reach out, call that number tomorrow, or visit our website. You can actually start an online application on the website, or just reach out and inquire too, so that way we'll get back to you with a call. The process for enrollment. So I hope everyone's typing in their questions down in the feed, but the questions for, the process for enrollment. Firstly, you've got to meet academic prerequisites, okay? So generally that is an Australian Year 12 certificate. That's a state issued certificate, not the high school issued certificate, or have an Australian certificate for qualification or higher. Now, if you don't have either of those, you may be required to sit at what we call a learning, literacy and numeracy test. And that's a short test that you do on a Zoom call like this. It goes for a couple hours, and it's just to see if you're working at a standard that's required to complete a diploma. So it tests your reading and your numeracy skills. It's a test that you'll do over Zoom just like this. And upon that entry, upon that pass score and any other supporting documents you may have, like relevant work experience and things like that, we'll use that evidence to put forwards to make you potentially eligible for the course. You'll then have to prepare some of your documents, and your career advisor can guide you through these things. Your ID documents like your driver license or your passport, things like this, proof of any previous studies that you've done, or academic transcripts as well, especially if you want credit transfers. There may also be some other documentation required if you are in Western Australia, because there are some subsidies in Western Australia, which are really exciting. Once you've compiled all these enrollment documents, you can complete the online application form and submit that on our website. Your career advisor will guide you through that, and they'll be able to guide you through this enrollment process to then starting at your first session, your first class. All of our classes at the moment, especially because of COVID, are all delivered online in sessions just like this Zoom session that you had with Marcus. Marcus is obviously one of our trainers, and he delivers the sessions just like what you experience now, which is great. So there's no limitations based on where you live, your time schedule, and things like that. It's all quite flexible. So here's that time for Q&A. If you're watching the recording, you'll probably have a lot of your questions answered right now. And for those of you that are live, thank you again for attending. You can ask all your questions now. Any questions for me around eligibility, how the course is structured, any requirements of the course, prerequisites, things like that, you can ask me those questions, or direct those questions to Marcus specifically around the industry, around the nuts and bolts of the course content. That's who you'd be directing those questions to. So feel free now to type them in the chat feed. We'll read them out and we'll answer those questions now. But if you don't have any other questions, you're more than welcome to end the call now. And as I mentioned before, get connected. If you are interested, you're really looking to upskill or get in the industry, don't hesitate to pick up the phone, give us a call. You'd be speaking to myself or someone here from my team. We're all very friendly, open, want to have a chat and see if this is the right thing for you. You can email us, sales@tsa.edu.au. That goes straight to our career advisory team, or you could just straight up apply on the site as well and book in a time to speak with us. But I'll hand over now to Marcus to go through some Q&A.
Thanks. Okay. I think I've answered some of the questions. Actually, I've just got a message from Wayne. Is it weekly Zoom classes? Yes. So normally, at the moment, we are structured online only. And this is just because of COVID lockdown restrictions and so on has sort of reshaped things. And there's a little bit of uncertainty and so on. A lot of our staff don't really want to be potentially getting our students sick. So we've kind of closed down the on-campus classes at the moment. I would need to talk to management about when the that might be changing. I much prefer to deliver in person. I really do. But having said that, I think I do a pretty good job of doing online. I think I'm okay. Oh, Femi, it's good to see you here. There we go. There's one of my students vouching for me there. That's Femi. He's one of my.
Yeah, you're the best, Marcus. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Femi. It's lovely to see you here. I'll send you the check later. I didn't pay Femi to give me a positive review, by the way. We were chatting earlier today. He's in my Diploma of Mental Health. So so when we have a weekly Zoom class, and it's normally 2 days per week, but it'll depend on your enrollment. So I believe there's a difference between JASRA and VSWEL requirements. So depending on how you're actually enrolling into the course, your attendance requirements are slightly different. Generally, you will have to attend 1 day a week. If you're doing a VSL. If you're a JASWA student, which is a jobs and skills student, then you'll normally have to attend 2 days per week. My content delivery, I put a lot of effort into my work, guys. So I deliver from 9 o'clock in the morning, normally to around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and obviously with a couple of breaks in there. But on my content delivery days, I will spend the whole day with you going through the information in the slides. Normally the second day of the week, I'll dedicate to catching up on things, going through things in a little bit more detail, tidying up, loose ends, going over practical assessments and so on.
I can answer one of these questions, Marcus. Thanks for that. So Wayne asked a question, do you have dates or any dates for the next diploma? So that does depend on the funding option that you choose as well. So the most popular funding option is the vet student loan. That's available all across Australia. And we have a rolling intake. That means that we have an intake every fortnight. So we do have regular intake dates. In saying that, we do have limited availability. Obviously, we have limited exceptional trainers like Marcus. Unfortunately, we can't clone him and make 1,000 of him. And there's only so many people that Marcus and the other trainers can take on. But we do have availabilities and spots every fortnight. So it is worth checking in on. For the subsidy, there is even more limited spots for that. If you're in Western Australia, there is an exciting subsidy available for existing workers. So there is a few caveats and eligibility requirements on that one. And the best person to speak to about that is to speak to us. Come give us a call, speak to a career advisor, and they'll run you through your individual circumstances and see if you're eligible for that.
And Robbie's just asked a similar thing, which is what if the set days of delivery don't line up with their work? That's something you'll need to discuss. So for example, my current delivery of my diploma level is a Thursday and a Friday. But the thing with the classes is that I only work 4 days a week. So I don't deliver anything on Mondays. I'm not here on Mondays. So sometimes what you'll find is that different trainers are available at different times. I deliver Wednesday, Thursday, Friday classes. So I'm pretty flat chat. And unfortunately, we can't clone me. I've tried. My son's somewhere. He's kind of like me, but not much. If you're looking at trying to sync it up with work, if you're a JASWA student, it's a bit more restrictive. Again, I think you need to talk to sales and the work placement team the career advisor team in terms of how to line up your work with the course. I think as a VSL student, you may be able to just watch recordings, but I'm not sure. You need to talk to them about the attendance requirements.
Yes, your career advisor definitely will run you through your individual circumstances. It does, again, depend on the funding method as to the flexibility of the course requirements, because we're kind of at the whim of the government requirements.
It's not us. We're like, if we just have to have you attend. We have to demonstrate that you've attended to a certain amount for us to get the funding to qualify for it. So what we don't want is students who sign up, never turn up for any lectures, but submit work in the background. You can kind of get away. I think VSL might be able to get away with that, but normally you need to explain to them your situation and justify why you can't attend any classes. So you can, Sybil. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. Yes, but you need to make sure that that's coordinated with your employer and the work placement team. So the key with the work placement is you will have what's basically a work placement observation checklist. And if you're working in the sector and you're like, I've done all this observation checklist stuff, but you don't have someone signing off on your observation checklist, then it doesn't count for anything. So what you really need to do if you're working in the field already is get your talk to the work placement team and talk to your employer. Keep in mind, you're actually creating extra work for your employer. So they might not be very happy about that, which is also one of the reasons we have particular work placement partners. They're all very aware of the work that's involved. So you might be able to do it. You just have to ask your employer if they're happy to sign off on your work placement stuff. So yeah.
I have a question here. Would there be any certificate 4 level qualification? The answer is yes. So we have a variety of different courses here at TrainSmart. So feel free to browse our website or speak to a career advisor. And what they'll do is they'll match you with the best course. The certificate 4 level is definitely a slightly less intense option than the diploma. I guess we have a lot more enrollments in the diploma because it can lead to further career growth and progression. And also the funding's available for diploma, where it's not available for certificates. So, and that's just industry standard. So certificates is generally a lot more cash up front, if that makes sense.
Regina, the course starts, we have rolling intakes. So the next one might be quite quick. Might be soon. I'm not sure exactly when it is. Jensen, there's no such thing as a stupid question. As a trainer, I love questions. Questions are my favorite thing.
I'd like to have a session with you if you can. Yeah. On those 3 questions I raised.
Yeah, because I answered a couple just before.
I got 3, 2 marketing question and 1 technical question.
Yeah, I asked.
And the one is what is the difference between a Christian mental worker and a non-Christian mental worker?
I can't answer that one. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's not one that I haven't worked in Christian mental health, so I don't know what the difference might be. What you need to do is look at accreditation. So if for example, if you're working as a mental health worker, quite often you'll need to have an accredited qualification, and all of our qualifications are accredited. Especially when you're working in mental health and counselling and psychology, you want to be looking for accredited courses, because there's plenty of courses out there that aren't accredited where you can just get a 6-week course in something and go and practice it, but it won't necessarily get you a job in the sector.
Yeah, well, there is a group of 250 Christian counselor in Brisbane. Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe there are some in Perth too.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, it's not a field I have any experience with, so I don't.
But that's not an official, there's no such thing like accredited Christian.
I don't know.
No, I can tell you that no.
Okay, yeah. There you go. Yeah, so that'd be why.
Because I did a bit of research on that. Yeah, because but there are schools who teach Christian counseling.
Yeah, there are plenty of, and the thing, okay, I'll just explain something quickly for all of you. There's a few, what you'll come across is titles. Okay, titles are important in this. If you call yourself a counsellor, I can call myself a counsellor. Steve can call himself a counsellor. Jensen, you can call yourself a counsellor.
No, I can't.
It's not, yeah, you can, because it's not a protected title. Okay, anyone can call themselves a counsellor. If you call yourself a psychologist and you're not a registered psychologist, you can get into very, 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 very big trouble. Okay. The same thing as a doctor. There are protected titles and there are unprotected titles. So within this, if you call yourself a counselor, it's not a protected title. You can call yourself that. And that's also why there are courses out there, unaccredited counseling courses, because it isn't a protected title. If you try and find a non-accredited psychology course, you won't find any that are hosted in Australia because it's illegal. You can't have a non-accredited psychology degree. But counseling is one of those things where, look, if you go and see a counselor, the quality can range from the worst person you've ever seen all the way up to the best person you've ever seen. Okay. When you go and see an accredited psychologist, that narrows down because they will have a minimum amount of training. They'll have, at least this much understanding of something. So it narrows it down. The same with this accredited course. By doing accredited course, if an employer is looking at your qualification and they see that you have an accredited qualification, they'll know that you're in that narrower band. Whereas if they see you from Marcus Miller's School of Backyard Counselors, they'll sort of go, that sounds a bit sus, Marcus.
Okay, Marcus and Steve, please note that one of your trainer called Roy Miller. Roy Miller, he talks about the clinical collective behavior therapy, which use Buddhism.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So that's why I asked I raised the question, Christian
Ah, no. See, now you're getting this Jensen. We could have long discussions about this. Some of the modern.
No, I'm not. We don't have to go long in there, but I guess if the course, the diploma we're talking about is non-religious, okay?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, then we shouldn't touch on anything like Buddhists.
Okay.
Hindus or others. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but one of the things that we talk about with all mental health is we start to talk about our client's spiritual well-being, and the concept of spiritual is a very personal thing. Okay, so my idea of what is spiritual will be very, very different to Steve's idea of spiritual, and very different to your idea of spiritual, Jensen. The difference there is that we take a non-judgmental approach. If your idea of spiritual is going to church, that's great. If your idea of spiritual is going for a swim in the ocean, that's great. We accept that with our clients. And we might actually go and offer multiple different avenues of support to our clients. There's a couple of ones that I'm really interested in, like transpersonal therapy. Transpersonal therapy is a spiritual approach to therapy that is a non-religious spiritual approach, but it incorporates our clients' potential spiritual beliefs into that space. Yeah. So I might say you could use Buddhism, you could use Taoism, you could use Christianity, you could use whatever you like. And that's up to you as my client. I would not say to you, you need to go to a Christian counselor. I would say, would a Christian counselor be the kind of support that you're after? Is that something that you would find more appropriate to your spiritual beliefs?
I think you make the right point, but my point is, if Roy Miller talking about Buddhism, then he should also talk about at least one more religions, like Christian.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that would be my suggestion.
It could
either
be,
you have two or you don't.
Do we have two or?
Two, I mean, Buddhist and Christian.
But okay. So
two religions.
in one of the units that we bring this up, we give a link to the list of potential religions, and there's quite a lot on there. So yeah,
I understand that. That's why because I am a Chinese. Okay, Buddhism is well known to me. Okay, but to many Australians, they don't know much about Buddhism.
Yeah.
But I think to be on a fair, equal basis, then we need to have two religions to be taught.
Of course.
Yeah. Good point.
My personal opinion.
But we'll give the others, Jensen, a chance to ask some questions here. We'll probably be online now for another 5-10 minutes. So if anyone else has any other questions, please comment down below and we'll get onto those.
I've got one here. There. Robbie has mentioned about work placement. Yeah, no, that's if your employer doesn't. That's okay. What you need to do is talk to the work placement team about exactly where you work, and they'll be able to let you know whether it's going to be when it's going to be appropriate. Because the thing is that with the actual work placement units, they may not be specifically like if you get placed at a place that doesn't deal with DV, then that's fine. We don't put we don't send you to every single type of mental health support facility. So you may end up only doing your work placement with children, or you might be doing it with DV clients, or you might be doing with AOD clients. So that's fine. I don't think it's not a problem. If you have a particular area that you do want to do work placement in, Robbie, then yeah, talk to the work placement team, and they can they can set you up with your preferred. It gets tricky because obviously you've got study and you might have a job and you might have a life. I don't know if you're like me. I don't do anything else. I just study and work. No, I don't. It's not true. I look after my well-being. It's all right. But yeah, this is the thing. You might find that you want to get more experience somewhere else. So if you're working somewhere part-time, great opportunity to talk to work placement team about getting a part-time job somewhere else, and you can have both. You can supplement both, and then that's really good feather in your cap. Yeah.
A question here about, can I put my study on hold for a couple of months or for a few months into the course? Marcus, do you want to answer that? Or?
Yes, you can. There are limitations, obviously, but yeah, that's something that we have a degree of flexibility, and you can talk to us about, changing in life circumstances. For example, you might find, suddenly work's putting too much pressure, or you want a holiday or something. Yeah, and generally, in most cases, there are options for extensions and such as well. Normally, what I suggest to people is that they get competence in a unit before taking a break, just in case they don't come back. And I can discuss that with people I normally go through all of this during the first few lessons with clients, with students, about completing units. Yeah. Sorry, Jensen, you have a question, or? Do we need to start work placement only after completing all the units? No. Normally, I suggest it depends. And it depends on, I normally do this from a student to student basis. At the 50% mark, I start to talk about it. And at the 75% mark of completion is when I start saying, look, it's probably a good idea to start getting ready. And then normally, around the 80-90% completion rate of your assessments is when you would start to do work placement. But that's up to you as well. Some students we have who are already working in the field they start work placement starts really early. You're welcome. Yes, Jensen. You'll need to unmute.
Have to unmute.
Yep. Hang on, I can't hear you, Jensen. No, I still can't hear you. Oh, Juan, it's good to see you. You're already in this course. Why are you? Jensen, I can't hear you.
Jensen, you need to click the unmute button. I think we've lost him there.
Yeah. So for everyone's record, Juan is another one of my students. She's come along to chat. So
okay, well, are there any other questions, guys? If there is, just type in the chat box. Or Jensen, if you can click unmute, because I think you have another
question.
Thank
you, Juan.
I just had a thing when Marcus was discussing care plans before, Stephen. One of the critical contributors to the care plan could be a health professional like the GP,
yes,
or the psychiatrist or the psychologist, because I think Jensen was thinking it was going to be left to sort of support workers, but normally a lot of those things are driven by the GP or the psych, because there's underlying issues usually that need professional treatment and all that sort of thing, but that they form the basis of the type of care that client will receive from the support workers and the mental health professionals. I think that needed to be clarified. I don't know.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah. So it's usually a collaborative process. Yeah, and we want to get most people involved. Yes, Jensen.
I still take on what the gentleman who just comment, and also he's saying his benefit to me too. Okay, but Marcus, my question is for everybody's interest. It's not just for my personal interest.
Yeah.
The question is, you mentioned that there is a great demand for new mental health care worker, which your college are going to train those, like one of me.
Yep.
One of them will be me, okay? And there is one sectors of the market which there's no right counselor, psychologist or counselor, but there's a big demand of clients.
Yeah.
So in other words, what I'm trying to tell everybody is there is really some big market out there, which Jensen May, cannot do it by myself. We have to do it with the whole team. Even that's not good enough, I can tell you that. Because I myself went through the depression, which cost me 1.5 years. I have records, I have analyzed for whatever I did over there, okay? Just because I don't understand why the counselor could help me. I don't understand why he did do this and that to me, okay? I never understand, but I recover, okay? So, but I found that in my case, because I speak my mother language, okay? There is no such counselor who can speak my mother language. I'm talking about easily, we're talking about a group of 100,000 Chinese like me, who speak our own mother language. And you cannot do anything with me if you don't speak my language.
Sure.
So that's why I'm saying, I'm suggesting that Steve, look into that, put it as your sales pitch, okay? But that's what I suggest to you. But the
So Jensen, there's an opportunity for you here then. If you were to complete your mental health qualification and then you were to do a certificate in training and assessment, you could become a mental health trainer and you could teach people.
Steve, I may or I may not, because I am a professional mechanical engineer and energy engineers. Okay, so I have enough to do, but I have the passion due to my recovery of the mental health problem. I have the passion to help people who have the similar depression as mine. It's very much like you, Marcus. You mentioned you went through the mental health journey. I can fully appreciate what you experienced, because if you don't, if a counselor have never gone through this journey of depression, anxiety, he or she will never understand how these patients feel. That's my experience. It's also the experience after I spoke to some English-speaking psychologists.
Yeah, it's very common. Yeah.
So that's the point I want to make.
Yeah.
Perhaps I'll give you a lead, Steve. You like to call me? I'll tell you where are those. No, I say Marcus better. You understand better. I like to talk with you some more on that to define that market, how we are going to approach it.
Okay, I don't know. That's not an area that I know.
That's not my personal interest. Okay, I'm not having that for personal.
No, I understand. Yeah,
I'm doing that for the best benefit of that sector of
course, yeah,
patient and the community as a whole. Yeah.
Good. It's great to see your passion, Jensen. And that's what we're looking for with students, right? We want passionate people to be part of our student alumni here at TrainSmart Australia.
I think
so
you
definitely,
have one of them here.
Definitely.
With me.
So look, definitely have a chat to one of our career advisors and you can explore the course further and ask further questions. And obviously, when you do become a student, you'll have a lot of access to our trainers here to explore these topics as well.
Good, Steve. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. But thank you, everyone. I think we'll wrap things up here. The recording will be available for you as well if you want to go back and rewatch things. But thanks, Marcus. I think we can all thank Marcus for his time today. It's been great to learn more about your experience and hear from the course from yourself as well. Thanks, everyone, for attending. It's been a great presentation. Thanks for your engagement as well. I hope we managed to answer all your questions. And if you do have any other further questions from here, because we do have to wrap things up now, just reach out to the career advisory team, go to our inbox, sales@tsa.edu.au, our website, or just give us a call. But thanks very much, guys, and have an amazing night.
Thanks, everyone.